You're listening to Mentoring Developers. How did you get your first job? And you had this code school experience. Was that enough? Did you have to do other things?
Yeah. So one of the other things that I really appreciate about Sabio on like a professional level is that they just won a hackathon, for example, this weekend. They're very serious about hackathons. I mean, that code school has pumped out more hackathon winners than any other code school I've ever heard of. And part of the reason that they do that is for the very reasons that you described, is that they think, hey, you know what? We want to give our students every advantage possible. And so, hey, you know what? I have this code school experience and I have this hackathon experience. That's kind of another way that they try to put their fellows out there. So what I would say is, you know what? I'm not going to lie. I actually wrote a post on this, and I'd be more than happy to send you the link after we talk. But I wrote a story, and it was called 40 interviews, 4 month and 2 job offers to becoming a software developer.
That's some story. I'm interested in reading that.
Yeah. And so, I was telling a friend of mine, one of the things, because I'm a grown up and, you get to know yourself. You're like, hey, there's things that I like about myself. There's things that I don't. But one of the things that I like about myself personally is that I have this ability to be like, okay, that didn't work out. Let's move on to the next thing. So that's kind of what it took with the interviews. I mean, 40 interviews, it wasn't all like in-person whiteboarding type interviews, but some of them were phone interviews and phone screens. And let's use this web app where I can see you do your software development. And some of them were recruiter calls and some of them were in-person interviews. And I'm not going to lie, I felt so humiliated a lot at the times. And that's what I don't understand. I never lied on my resume or to anybody about the fact that I went through a code school or whatever, but then you show up and they're asking you all these like complicated object-oriented programming questions. And I don't understand, like, why would you think that I have a computer science degree when I don't? Why won't you change your process when it's pretty clear you should probably change your process, right? So like I said, I am a different situation. I'm very fortunate. I had savings. I had some freelance work while I was looking. So I was able to sustain myself. That being said, it was incredibly stressful. And I did get to the point where I thought, you know what? I have to be realistic and get another job. And so I had started applying to digital media jobs like content marketing and digital media. And I mean, I was probably going to have an offer within a week because I have great experience in that. I've managed people in that. I've built, startup ecosystems on that kind of stuff. And so I have amazing expertise in that. And, luckily, after 4 months and 40 interviews, I had 2 job offers on the same day. And I was like, why did you do this to me? So, that I really kind of in the nick of time, although it was like some sort of a movie, in the nick of time, I was able to find employment. And I've been working, building UIs in Angular and Bootstrap and C# since. So that was kind of my journey, and I have a lot of respect for anyone who's trying to break in. And that being said, I think one of the issues that not just me, but lots of people are running into here in Austin is that a lot of companies don't want to hire bootcamp grads, or, they say, oh, you have to have this computer science background in order to apply. I literally have applied to one of the big tech companies here in Austin, and like 2 hours later, they sent me an automated rejection email, which, didn't hurt my feelings. But what it told me was they have a checklist. And if you don't fit the checklist, they don't even consider you. Yeah. And so, you're in Austin, everyone here is having trouble finding talent. And all anyone does is complain about how much trouble they're having finding talent. But it never occurs to anybody to consider alternatives, to look outside their box. And so that being said, I think if you're a code school grad in a big city, in a big market like Los Angeles or Chicago or, some other place, it's a lot easier just because there's like quantitatively more jobs. But if you're in like in a medium-sized market or maybe even a small markets might be easier because they have harder times finding candidates. But I think it's that medium range where it's just difficult because companies here in Austin keep holding out that they can get someone from San Francisco or they can get someone from New York to move down here, or that they're going to magically find this candidate, when I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I've seen job openings linger for over a year. So it's like, how desperately are you looking for someone? If you've been looking for a year, don't you think that you would have found them by now?
Yeah, this is a situation where the companies are losing eventually because the candidates will eventually find something. Maybe not their ideal job, but it's very hard in our industry, if you have any kind of skills, to be completely jobless. You can find a job. It may not be a great job, but it's hard to not have a job unless, like you must have some very unrealistic expectations if you can't find any kind of employment, or you might be in a very, very small city where there are no jobs. But I think that's completely, I'm in agreement with you there, because companies should think outside the box, because you never know who's out there. And the problem, why do they not do that? Because they get inundated with these resumes, these job applications, and they feel like they can't go through all of them. So they have to have a way, almost an arbitrary way. It could be a lottery, right, the way they do it. And they're okay with that because they don't want to invest the time to actually talk to their candidates and go through their profiles. I mean, this hiring is completely broken. I think we agree on that.
Absolutely. I agree with you completely. I think what I would say is my biggest critique of the tech hiring as a boot camp graduate is that it seems as though there's no adjustment that takes place, really, like a real adjustment between a computer science master's candidate, a computer science undergraduate, a 10-year seasoned veteran, and a boot camp graduate in terms of the interview. The only thing that changes is how well they expect you to do.
Yeah.
And that seems crazy to me.
I think that it's the whole idea that they want to treat everybody equally and they don't really care where you're from or what's your background, as long as you can do the work. But some of these questions are not related to doing the work. They're theoretical, and they're things that you don't. I mean, this is just another way of filtering people out. So hey, you have a list of 100. You filter people out that don't have computer science degrees. Now you have maybe 50, and from there 50 you want to go to 10. How do you do that? You ask them these standard questions, and so I don't want to look at more than 10. I have empathy for their situation, but the end result is that they're losing out, and everybody's losing in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you completely. But yeah, I think that that's going to have to change. I think that these companies are going to have to start hiring more boot camp grads. I mean, those are the candidates. That's who is available to be hired.
And you have some certain skills that you brought into your job. You worked as a journalist, and it's very hard to find people that have good writing skills that are traditional software engineers. It's very, very hard. Communication is a hard problem. If you have somebody who's good at communication, I'd say, the programming is cherry on the top. I mean, I could hire you as a manager. I could perhaps hire you without any experience, and knowing that you would learn some of these skills, and perhaps you would be, a very good person to be a liaison between technology and management. Even if you were not programmer yourself, you could represent programmers. So you could be a good business analyst. You could be a good manager, even if you couldn't do the programming. So for me, a person who can communicate, I will grab that person. I'm surprised that you had so much difficulty.
Well, and I agree with you, obviously, and I really appreciate that perspective. And that was something that I was confused about. Was I thought, I would be a really great asset to this team. I'm bilingual. I speak Portuguese really well. I went to Stanford, so clearly I can learn stuff, and I'm smart. I can speak to you about the fundamentals that you expect me to understand about the work that we're doing, but it was just really difficult. And again, I think that I know that I'm, obviously I'm employed now, and obviously I'm, capable of doing the job. So the kind of conclusion that I came to was, again, just the size of the market, because my cohorts from Sabio who are in Los Angeles didn't have the time it took them to find a job was much shorter.
For show notes and transcripts, visit us at mentoringdevelopers.com.